Hey everybody, I got a fire episode for you today. So I get more political than I normally do. I know I've been kind of talking more about politics lately. I don't know why. Maybe it's just the environment that we're in, but there was a breaking case that came out of Texas today that is quite frightening in terms of the cultural impact, the legal impact. And so I talk about that. It's, in my opinion, it has possibly big implications, both maybe practically, but also psychologically on a lot of people. And also, I talk about the possibility of civil war in America. What do you think, guys? Could we break out into civil war? Are we in a civil war now? Well, listen and find out. Email me, tayradio1 at gmail.com. You can follow me on Twitter, tstutch1. You can go to my website, tstutch.com. You can follow me on Periscope, tstutch1, and my YouTube channel. Subscribe. Taylor Stutch, Taylor, space Stutch, Stuch. And that is all. Thank you. Here we go, guys. So, yeah, I'm sorry to get so political on this one. I know sometimes I step into the realm of very particular issues, but some interesting stuff going on here. So, there is an article that's been going around by a place called LifeSite News. And I was like, what is this, man? What is going on here? There's apparently a situation going on in Texas where a father is being blocked from stopping his son, who is 7 years old, being transitioned into a girl by his mother. And it's absolutely insane. It's something that I've heard about a case like this, I think, over in Canada. And I remember thinking, oh, well, it hasn't, usually it'll take a while for that kind of stuff to trickle down here. And then especially I thought in Texas, we're safer from these kinds of things. And I must have been wrong because it was a Texas jury which made it to where the father could not block the mother from transitioning their 7-year-old boy. This stuff is crazy. So here's an article from the Washington Examiner. It says, Texas father blocked from stopping gender transition of son, James, 7, to girl called Luna. Oh, wow. A jury in Texas returned a verdict on Monday that will prevent a Texas dad from intervening in the gender transition of his 7-year-old son. Jeffrey Younger had petitioned a court in Texas to grant him sole custody of his twin sons, James and Jude, in part to avoid a plan to infuse James with female hormones. So, someone wants to infuse James, one of the twins, with female hormones. James, who would like to be called Luna, has been the center of controversy in the heated debate among his parents and others. So, it says, who wants to be called Luna. So, that, I've been hearing some interesting stuff about this. The court ruled that Gorgalis will maintain sole custody of her 2 children and go forward with the plans to give James life-altering medical procedures. Her court filing had sought to limit her ex-husband's visits with her children and require that he now refer to James as Luna. She further asked that Jeffrey not be exposed to any people who would not confirm his female identity. Ooh, man. Big stuff, big stuff. I guess this is, in fact, why I'm talking about it. As I'm reading this, something about this is frightening. Because a 7-year-old kid a 7-year-old boy does not, a 7-year-old girl, no 7-year-old knows if they want to have a life-altering biological change like that done to them. That is horrific, absolutely horrific that this is being pushed on him. And the fact that this is being allowed by the courts, while I'm reading this, I'll tell you the feeling that comes over me. It is almost like an urgency and extreme concern. So previously, like I said, you always hear about these kinds of cases in like very liberal areas. So I heard about a case like this in Canada. I don't remember what the case is called, but I remember hearing about a case where there was somebody wanted to, I think it was more about a family situation. And this might have been a year or two ago. A family was basically being threatened with their kid being taken away or transitioned because a therapist said that the child had gender dysphoria and could transition if they wanted to, even though they were a child. And the family was like, no, you can't do this to my kid. My kid doesn't know what's good for them. And the court was like, nope, your kid wants it, so your kid's going to get it. And that, I remember thinking like, wow, this is crazy. It is so insane. When I heard it, I remember thinking to myself, this is so outrageous that I just can't even think about it. Do you know what I mean? The fact that the state could take away someone's children or forcibly transition someone's kid against the parents' wishes and possibly destroy the sexual function of that person for their entire life. And I mean, this is irreversible stuff. This is the craziest biological shit that we're doing to people. I mean, okay, it's not like just cutting off limbs, but this is crazy. Absolutely insane. Okay, so it goes on. Expert witnesses expressed doubt that James was fully convinced that he was inherently female in his testimony last week. Oh, interesting. Expert witnesses expressed doubt that James was fully convinced that he was inherently female. There is still some fluidity in his thinking, said Dr. Benjamin Albritton in sworn testimony. Neither child appears to be depressed, anxious, or aggressive. He, who's the kid, James, gave no indications of other significant psychological difficulties. It says there are no laws currently preventing a legal guardian from giving a minor puberty blockers or hormones. Oh, God. George Gullis has additionally secured a letter of recommendation for transition for James from a woman associated with the Gay Children's Therapy Center. This is a letter of recommendation that my client, James Younger, aka Luna, begin the process of becoming a patient of the Genesis Clinic so that he can receive a full psychological assessment for gender dysphoria and potentially take hormone blockers. Oh my gosh. Oh, it's sickening to even read. It makes me sick to even read this shit, man, because it's like this kid. I just think about as a guy. I mean, and I think any guy would think about this. A gay guy, straight guy, sex is an important part of your life. It's a huge, huge part of your life. And well, not that you're having it all the time. It's, it's a small percentage of your time, but the drive to be ambitious and succeed and try new things and put yourself out there is driven by maybe sex, testosterone, whatever it is. And if he ends up being attracted to women and destroys his ability to become intimate with women, that is suicidal shit right there. I mean, it absolutely is. Now, it doesn't have to be that way, but to be healthy in every other way, it's not like you got into an accident that there's nothing that could have been done, but to have and to feel that you could possibly be responsible for that decision because everyone's saying that you want it. If you were like 18 and turn around and say, dude, I was 7 years old and you did this to me, like, I cannot imagine the hate and the resentment and the thoughts that would go through someone's mind. I can only imagine it would be horrendous. Ooh, okay. So let's pause there. Gonna have the sponsors. Let's see how I'm feeling when we come back. Hey, everybody. Do you want to record your own podcast like me? Well, Anchor is a one-stop shop for recording, hosting, and distributing your podcast. Best of all, it's 100% free and ridiculously easy to use. And now, Anchor can match you with great sponsors who want to advertise on your podcast. That means you get paid to podcast right away. In fact, that's what I'm doing right now by reading this ad. That's right, mofos. It's easy. Check it out. So, this kind of stuff makes me think about Tim Pool. Tim Pool, talks. I don't usually get into this kind of shit all the time because it really is a downer. Um, and it's unfortunate as shit that this stuff is going on. And it reminds me of what's his name? Tim Pool says. Tim Pool is convinced that we could already be in a civil war. You like how I say he's convinced we could be. He thinks that we could be in a civil war now. And let me describe what he means is that basically, and he has a good point here, that in in history, and this is something Taleb also kind of goes with, we don't see all the peaceful parts of history. People tend to write more and more about the violent parts. And with civil wars guaranteed, and especially probably with lots of other kind of conflicts, they start off in slow motion, right? Like there's kind of a bombing here, there's a fight here, there's some shootings there, and then slowly it progresses and you have a little more and a little more. And you may not ever have full scale like people like in the streets killing each other all the time, but you could have a situation where for several years maybe institutions are under, there's a significant threat of instability. There are pockets of violence between different political factions. And I think that is one of the situations that Tim Pool believes is possible. And I agree. I totally agree. I also think it's possible it could be worse than that. So the stuff like the reason I talk about this is because of course there's bad actors on all sides of the political spectrum, but it's just that the radical left thinking, the very, very super progressive type of thinking is what seems to be pushing the worst elements here in culture. And a lot of it has to do, like I said, it's let adults decide if they want to be a particular gender, if they want to change their sex. Like I say, let them, if that's what they want to do, let them do that. To push it on kids is another thing. That's life-altering propaganda that destroys people's lives. And we can see the same thing when it comes to censorship as well. I mean, what happens when you censor people? It's not going to be a good thing, guys. It's not going to be a good thing. Even because the Overton window is being shifted so far left that just making regular jokes is seen as extremely offensive. And a lot of language that was popular and funny is being outlawed no matter how it's being said, even if it's a joke. And it's just dangerous territory that we're entering in, where if you silence people enough, the only recourse people have is to fight. But it doesn't evolve like that immediately, right? So you say, okay, well, you can't say this, you can't say that. We're going to block your accounts on social media. So then what happens? Okay, well, people have to find other ways to get in contact, and they vote again for the people they want. But now they are starting to face violence because there's only one side being allowed to speak, and they're projecting an image that the rest of the country is legitimately dangerous. So what I find is one of the major problems that we're having with each other is that regular speaking, things that would be considered regular debate, say, I was on the debate team when I was in high school and college for a little bit. So things that would be considered debatable, that were topics that you could get into arguments with, left, Democrat, Republican policy debates, or conservative, more liberal policy debates, economics, culture, all this. Now you're not supposed to have the debate. And people were talking about this for the last several years, how the left wants to shut down the debate. And it was just a talking point, but it's legitimately a source of potential violence, because when people if I say, hey, I disagree with you, I don't think that, say if I disagree with somebody on affirmative action, or I disagree with somebody on immigration, now people can say, oh, well, that's because you're racist, and racists are denying the humanity of non-white people. Therefore, you're denying my humanity. That's a threat of violence. I can attack you. That is the line of reasoning that's used. And that's the way it's used with all of these very sensitive subjects. So like I said, with immigration, I think there should be a limit to immigration. Well, if you think there should be a limit to immigration, or do you think that some people should be deported, if that's the case, then that's because you don't like brown people. And if you don't like brown people, you are actively oppressing, you are actively advocating for the oppression of brown people, and that is violence. You are trying to oppress me in a systemic way that will not allow me to succeed, so I can attack you. This is a threat of violence on me, so I will be violent with you. And that's the way they look at it. They look at it as people from different viewpoints or from different quote unquote classes in the racist structure cannot communicate. Fundamentally, it's impossible to negotiate. And so the only way that you can get around the situation is to fight the other team. And so that's what's going on with the radical left, is they say, we're not going to debate you, we're going to fight you and protest you. There is no such thing as having a discussion or being patient and seeing how certain things play out. No, it has to be violence. They've been radicalized. So I could totally see more violence breaking out, though I hope that's not the case. I hope that's not the case. I tend to want to believe that cooler heads will prevail. However, I will say the jury decision in Texas, in the heartland of one of the heartlands of conservatism, the fact that this kid is going to be possibly given hormone treatment without any say from the father when the kid is 7 years old is really an attack on the cultural heart of the United States, in my opinion, the conservative cultural ethos. And not even conservative. I say it's an attack on the average person. It's a direct attack on the culture of people that live here that are just trying to fucking live and survive, because that's what this is. So I'm sorry to go on a rant about this today, but this is actually a really strange development in my opinion, and the fact that it hits in so close to home and in a conservative place really brings me pause about how fast things could get out of control. So guys, I love you for listening. If you want to protect yourself, obviously just prepare for the worst, but always do your best to make it better, man. That's what we're doing here, bro. So, that's all I have to say. You can follow me on Twitter, tstouch1. You can you can send me an email, tayradio1@gmail.com. You can, what else can you do? Go to my website, tstouch.com. And that is it, guys. Thank you.